All right, I believe we're live. Hello, everyone. Happy afternoon. Happy coffee break. Welcome back to another episode of GM Philosophy Coffee Break Live. We're hitting it hard today with the massive caffeine here. Rockstar Energy has, let's see how much caffeine is in this bad boy. Let's see, it doesn't even say. I don't know how niacin. Um, um, there's a lot of caffeine in here. Anyway, shabam. Um, John is in the house. John Haney. Hey, John, how's it going? Garrick is here. Great to see you, Garrick. Great to see everyone. Already got a few people present. I'm super pumped about this topic. We're going to talk about monster stat blocks. Now, here's the way the format's going to go. We've been discussing this all morning in the Discord. Hey, Profit Roll, how's it going? We've been discussing this all morning in the Discord. And so we have a lot of tips, lots of advice lined up here. Basically, how to make the most of stat blocks. You have stat blocks in the Monster Manual. You can get stat blocks online. It's got some base creature stats. It's got some abilities, but how do you make the most of it? Are you using stat blocks correctly, or are you missing out on some perhaps reading between the lines that can happen to make them even better? There was some really great advice dropped in the Discord. If you want to join our Discord, links in the description. Whispering Wisp is in the house. Hey, Whispering Wisp, how's it going? Basically, yeah, we're going to go through this. Everyone who wanted to drop their comments on this, drop their advice about using creature stat blocks to the maximum, making the most of them. So we're just going to dive right in. Now, usually what I do is I give my 2 cents and then I dive into the comments, but we have quite a bit to go over here and I do not want to miss any of these. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through these and then I'm going to pepper my 2 cents in with the rest of the big money here that we're going to get. It is Thursday. It is almost the weekend. I think I played D&D on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend. I'm pretty sure. If my Friday night Discord, if they can all make it, we'll play Friday. Sunday definitely playing. Williams can play. I'm a player in that one, and running my core group on Saturday. Super pumped about that. So, all right, happy coming up weekend. Now let's dive into these stat block advice pieces. All right. Peter Octavian is the first one up. A good way to utilize stat blocks is to see how an attack or feature can be used indirectly, such as a dragon grappling a character in its mouth before using the breath weapon. Oh, imagine your character getting grappled by the dragon, and then it uses its breath weapon. It's so bad. I'm pretty sure you get disadvantage on your dex save. Or a goblin shooting at the ceiling to knock rubble onto an enemy. Actually, that is a really good. That's a really good take. Using it in indirect ways, using it in ways that players would not expect, and of course, you can be a little creative with it, right? Be a little bit creative, and don't be afraid to make that creature a little more dangerous. That dragon grabs you and picks you up to grapple you. Players might think, "Oh, he's grappling me," and then the breath weapon. It's like, well, it doesn't say he can use his breath weapon while he's grappling you. It did not say he was not allowed to. The GM makes the decisions, and sometimes those monsters, they're out for blood, man. Sometimes they're dangerous, and you have to obey what the monster wants sometimes. Okay, Drew said this. Remember that all actions are available to the NPCs too. They can dash, dodge, disengage, forego an attack to grapple or shove prone, use the help action. They also have skills. They might not have bonuses to them, but they can still use them with their base stats. If possible, try to have a way of rolling for attacks and having a saving throw feature. This will keep the heavy armored guy on its toes. Having a good visual will allow you to improvise in combat. For example, the spined devil can use its spiky body to crash into an enemy instead of using its fork or its tail to throw a spine. Yeah, no, this is awesome. So basically, remember that those NPCs also have the other actions and they can take them. That devil might choose to take the dash action to rush the spellcaster and then body slam him with the spikes. People be like, I didn't see that coming. I thought he was going to stand there and throw spikes like usual. Nope. These enemies think for themselves. They think for themselves. Garrick coming in here, having the hostiles all attack from a single direction is as bad of GM planning as having the fight happen in plain open featureless terrain. Not having additional hostiles show up after the fight has started isn't as much of a missed opportunity, but isn't optimal either, particularly if a hostile type tends to ambush. Why the heck not have another squad of them attack from the rear or flank 2 rounds into the engagement? They arrived a bit late and snuck up. Cool for the hostiles, more memorable for the party. That is if the party remembers them at all, because if they survive. No, but this is super true. And I think a lot of times the ambush feature and using the terrain feature is underutilized, because here's the thing. As a GM, you do get busy and you think, okay, monsters out here. Okay, let's roll for initiative, and then there isn't quite as much time put into what are the tactics. And I think what Garrick is making clear here to me, what this says to me is take just an extra couple seconds to think through some good tactics. Maybe the goblins, maybe they don't have a whole lot of time to think through tactics, but maybe they're going to hide behind the rock. Maybe a couple are going to sneak around in the woods. They're going to make the best use of their environment possible with what they have to work with. Garrick also said, I should clarify, crossfire is when you don't all fire straight ahead, but the guys on the left target the hostiles to the right and vice versa. In the heat of battle, it is noticeably more confusing to the hostiles where the fire is coming from and therefore how to best defend against it. Do you keep your shield in front of you because of the guy with the sword is in front of you, or do you angle it because of arrows coming from 45 degrees? A round or so of the opponents doing suboptimal defending is very precious. Actually, that's really true. And it's also true that if the enemies can catch friendlies in a position where like they have to make those hard choices, like man, the goblins are shooting from up there, but we have the little goblins on wild dogs coming in from the front. Where do we focus our attention? This can actually create dilemmas that the player characters can face, and those can be challenges that are fun. Jack Gravy says, I love how one of my drill sergeants was lecturing us about that and about when to properly retreat with smoke grenades. And I quote, these colors don't run, we tactically retreat. Maybe you can have your creatures sometimes tactically retreat. The friendlies think the battle's over, but really they're retreating to get better ground, and they're going to launch another attack or keep firing their bows or whatever. Now, with that being said, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go to the comments here for a second. Garrick says, I admit I'm more tactics, less stat block. I think that's fine. Let's see who else here. Carl Swan is here. Hey, Carl Swan, good to see you. Coffee acquired. Sounds like a good plan. Garrick says what Carl said. I agree. Profit Roll says, I ran dragon that way and failed every grapple check. Oh, that's funny. It's actually, I feel like kind of rare for a dragon to fail a grapple check because it got so much strength. A big one anyway. John says, I need a game to play. I miss playing. I've only run games for almost a year now. Time is tight, though, so it is what it is. I totally get you. I totally get you. Hot Dice is in the house. How's it going, Hot Dice? Got the salute emoji. Salute back. Anyway, all right, let's go back to the notes here. Great job on these notes, everybody, in the Discord. Great job. These are some really good notes. Carl said, look for ways that a monster's stat blocking abilities can interact with the environment of the encounter. If the creature is the creature resistant to fire damage, they may hide in the bonfire, even though it causes them some damage to obscure them from sight. Do they have the siege creature trait? They may attack with columns supporting the roof of the timber to cause a cave-in. When possible, include these thoughts in your encounter so you can include environmental damage, such as a cave-in on your CR calculations. Yes, actually, those are really good points. One of the most memorable combats I ever ran was when the players were so I don't know if you guys remember the god Groot. Like Groot was the god of the orcs in like I think it was the Greyhawk Pantheon or whatever they call that. It's like the third edition books. In the third edition books, the gods in there, Groot was the orc god. And I was one time the players were going on an adventure where they were trying to find the avatar of Groot, which was this basically like huge sized orc who was sort of like the Incredible Hulk, like he kind of couldn't be killed, and he would go into these mindless frenzies and just go and kill its spree. And he was being held in this secret cave by this secret order of monks. It turns out he had a weakness, a specific tune, which was crafted by Larethian, the god of the elves, like who created it to subdue the avatar of Groot. But so there were all these bards. There's a secret order of monk bards, and they would play this music 24 hours a day to keep the avatar subdued. And so he was just like in a stupor. They had him completely encased in rock too, but that would not hold him if he woke up. But they would play these songs to keep him subdued. But then the party came in and they kind of didn't really know what was going on. One of them had actually made a deal with Grooch because Cruch was their god, and they killed the monks and the bards. They came in and started fights, and then when the music stopped, the rock started shaking, and then the avatar came out, and he released this like huge power pulse that caused the cave in the cave, and it became like a really dangerous thing. Actually, I think two player characters died in the cave in because it was so bad. It was a very bad situation. Very bad situation. Um, is my microphone weird? Kind of like if it was capturing some noise in the background. 20-sided dice says my mic is weird. I don't know. Does it sound a little better if I get closer like this? It might just because it's far away from me. Let me know. Let me know. Microphone problems. Microphone problems. No, no good. No good, bro. We can't have microphone problems. Let me know if it. No one else has mentioned it, so it must not be terrible. I don't know. We'll see. Much distortion, really. If I get close, if I stay back like this, yes, better. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Sounds better when you are closer. Sounds better when I'm closer. Interesting. Yeah, it's probably because it was better when I'm closer. So it's better like if I'm like this, it sounds better. Interesting. There must be some issue. Some issue. Sounds a bit hollow. Yeah, I have a new microphone. It is actually it's a condenser microphone. It picks up a lot of noise, but I keep it back. Feels like your mic picks up your speakers. Oh, my speakers are turned all the way down. Let me experiment with this. Here, we're gonna do a little experiment. Hold fast. Hold fast, my faithful friends. Ah, we're gonna bring it up here and see if this makes any difference. I'm very invested in trying to make my mic sound good now. Oh, there's definitely some digital distortion, like it's ducking your voice. Interesting. Okay. It's occasionally dropping pickup. Okay, I have noticed that. That has been a problem sometimes. This is so much better, way better. Okay, cool, very cool. I'm gonna try this for a little bit. Keep me updated. Let me know if it gets like. Let me know if this gets weird or if this stays pretty cool. Let me know. If in other words, if there's an issue, please let me know, and we will continue to try to fix and adjust. All right. Uh, let's see. Garrick says, "Oh, this was in response to the Jack saying these colors don't run. We tactically retreat." Garrick says, "We regroup to a superior defensive position, lest we do a dip, die in place." Yes, even goblins know better than to die in place usually. It does kind of look like a magic item, doesn't it? Anyway, all right. Let's see here. There's a couple other things. Okay, the next tip comes from Garrick. It sounds weird, but we're being overrun. Fire for effect, my position, now, was not as dumb or suicidal as it sounds. The defenders were down and whatever cover was available, and the enemy was running around vertical. There would be friendly casualties, but not the 100% casualties that would come from being overrun. I can conceive of situations in a similar vein where a party was about to be dragged down by hordes, but had better saving throws than the beasties, and a mage fireballing the party's position might not be as dumb as it sounds. Um, that is actually not a bad tactic, and that tactic actually happened in a game I was playing in actually just the other day. I think it was in Williams' game. Someone fireballed a friendly because it was more beneficial to hit the enemy the friendly was fighting than to not hit them, even though the friendly would take damage. Um, Whispering Wisp says, "Why were you not showing off that awesome mic?" I don't know. I guess I felt like if it was right in the picture, it's kind of like in the way. I was trying to keep it like out of the way. But if the audio quality is better with it here, then I am fine with it here. And I actually like it. I think it's very pretty. Definitely an upgrade from my previous mic. But anyway, all right. Back to the stat block topic. As per Carl, when running online, when doing prep, it is very good to check the stat blocks of monsters, especially for complex stat blocks. When possible, it can be good to add quick macros or token actions. Different VTTs work differently. To make using these abilities quick and easy, I even like to add a stat on the sheet to easily track recharge abilities. I can totally identify with this. Sometimes when you're looking at complex stat blocks, first of all, it's a really good idea to still getting some drops in the audio. Maybe if I back it up just a little bit. Yeah, the noise gate. I think you may be right, Profit Roll. I think we have a noise gate issue. Let's try this a little bit better. Noise gate might be set too high. I'm thinking that um, that might actually be an issue. I'll have to look into that. Let's see if this works better. But anyway, when you have a complex stat block, it does pay to really make sure you read it and understand it ahead of time. It also pays sometimes to make like simple changes to it, such as what Carl was suggesting. Carl was also talking about some BTT tech there, which I actually do not understand a whole lot. I'm still very new to BTTs. But anyway, John Haney said, number one, understand the creature. Something that has pack tactics probably hunts in large packs. Something that appears inanimate until it moves and has a devastating surprise ability will probably use it before initiative is even rolled. Something that is highly mobile will probably use that mobility to great advantage. Number two, understand the stats. The average 6d8 HP might be 30, but if you need the fight to last a little longer, give it the full 48 HP. Inversely, if you like the creature but want it to be more of a minion, just give it the 6 HP. HP is only one variable here. And then number three, understand that the stat block is a starting point. Feel free to tweak stat blocks in minor but flavorful ways. Give it an ability from another similar creature. Give it a couple spells. Give it a reaction. One of my favorites is to give wolves a couple levels of rogue, just enough to get cunning action and a couple extra damage dice. Turns a random encounter with a pack of 2d6 wolves from a minor inconvenience into a formidable foe. I agree with these things. These are all really good things. I especially love the idea of adjusting the stat block. One thing that I feel like I usually do, and I have done this a lot in the past, is when I run a creature with a stat block, I only use a stat block as a starting point. But then it's like, okay, what am I going to change? Like, that's the automatic question. Maybe I take some abilities away that I don't really like, or I change them a little bit, or I give it a couple spells I feel like it would have. And that's always been a normal thing for me. And I think that that's really, really cool. And to be honest, I feel like fights are more fun that way because then players can't really ever meta the creature. It's like even though they've fought a bugbear before, they don't know what these bugbears are going to do because I'm running them. And they're probably different, right? So anyway, I like that a lot. Very, very good. Profit Roll says, I totally agree with John Haney's comment. And then Ryan says, gives the idea of subspecies. Yeah, totally, actually. Totally, totally. So here we go. Garrick responded to John Haney's comment by saying, give it a couple spells. I've been doing that recently. Give a couple of a classically hack and slash species some mage ability. My own formula is to leave HD the same and give the thing half as many spell slots as a mage of that level would have. The first time my party was up against improved trolls, ho hum for level 8 party, they didn't know what to think when one of the trolls flew toward them and cast a web spell. That's really funny. Um, so I like the idea of, like, if you have a group of minions, making sure at least 1 or 2 of them are spellcasters for sure, and I think that's true of creatures too, especially creatures like trolls or goblins. I wanna do that with goblins. It's always like there's a shaman, there's a shaman, what kind of spells is it gonna cast? Um, Carl says, or if you don't want the creature to actually be a caster, look at some spells and turn the effect of the spell into an organic once per combat or recharge ability of that creature. That I think is super true. And usually I think that works better than giving it spells because there's a difference between being a spellcaster and having magical, like innate magical abilities. And a lot of times for creatures, it's like innate magical abilities kind of makes more sense, I feel like. But anyway, shabam. Let's see. That is the conclusion of the tips in the Discord. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give my own 2 cents on this and wrap it up with my own 2 cents. We've got 21 viewers today. Thank you all for tuning in and hanging out with me. Garrick says shaman is more a cleric analog. What I've recently done is actual mage stuff. Okay, so you're talking about like wizards, that kind of thing. D. Kupark says, I made it. Hello, guys. I sometimes give monsters and magic items to make them fun and players can get something from it. That's actually fun. Giving them magic items. It's just that like sometimes for me it's like, okay, I give them magic items, but it's like if you do that a lot, the players get a lot of magic items, like maybe too many. I have to be really careful. I used to do that a lot more, and then my players just got loaded with magic items, and it made it a little bit tricky. I have to be a little more careful with magic items. But my new campaign coming up, my Barren Lands Arctic campaign is going to be the opposite. It's going to be survival, survival, survival. Magic items are going to be very scarce in that campaign. Everything's going to be scarce. Food is going to be scarce. uh, And then Garrick says, give them single use items. That's true, like scrolls, potions. Profit Roll says, or the old boss weapon sucks for the players. Trope. Yeah, give them like a weapon that works really well for them, but when the players get it, it's like a +1, which is still not a bad weapon. But why can't it shoot fireballs like he was doing with it? That was an ability he had, or that was a maneuver he must have had. Anyway, or it turns out the weapon's ascension item and it's lying to the player and it's secretly laying dormant, waiting for the right time to strike and gain its independence. DQ Park said, sorry, mainly for like a boss, not normal encounters. Yes. Well, you could do it for normal encounters. Okay. So I think that my favorite my favorite tip for making the most of stat blocks is actually it was already sort of addressed, and we kind of already talked about it, but changing the stat blocks. I think that every time you get a stat block, you want to treat it as a starting point. And it's like, okay, this is the starting point. But then I like to go with like a theme. So it's like, okay, we have let's say we have like a group of orcs living in the wilderness. Okay. And I love orcs. I think orcs are so much fun. I love them as just like creatures. I love orcs as good guys, as bad guys, as civilized, as tribal barbarians. I love orcs. But let's say you've got some orcs out in the forest and like you have a spellcaster among them. Okay, how are we going to flavor that? I might flavor it like make the orc into a druid. Okay, so we're gonna have an orc stack block. We're gonna kind of build like a almost like a player character, like an NPC build, but I'm gonna make it more like just innate, kind of like abilities. Like maybe they can wild shape, but only into two different kinds of monsters. And like those shape shifting things are gonna be like I'm just gonna slap them down as innate magical abilities. But then there's also gonna be some like healing. I'm probably gonna give them the ability to heal even when they are an animal and I'm going to have them doing these like druidic type things. But then I'm going to also add something else. Like maybe I'll give them a staff. When they throw it on their staff, it turns into a snake, and then the snake flanks for them or something, right? So I'm just thinking I'm going to really try to turn it into something interesting and unique. And I might even give it some homebrew abilities, like a roar that causes fear if they fail their wisdom save, like once per battle or something like that, right? So that I think is my favorite, and we've already actually that's already been suggested by I think two different people in these notes. But that's my favorite tip for how to make the most of creature stat blocks. All right, I'm going to go and check these comments one more time here. Ryan Williams says, "Is there a dedicated or a decided math ratio for resistances?" I think if you mean resistances to fire, then it's kind of like um, if you have I think it goes like this. If you have resistance to fire, then you only take half damage from fire sources. If you have fire vulnerability, then you take double damage. If you're invulnerable to fire, you take no damage from fire. I believe that that's how the resistances are calculated, and I think that's what you're talking about, but I'm not 100% sure if that's what you meant. Profit Roll says, imagine a normal bandit with a Vorpal sword. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, man. Right now in my core group, one of the player characters actually had a Vorpal sword, which was wild. It is a wild thing. Whispering Wisp says, are there any ways to make a stat block leaner and meaner? Ways to make them potent yet easy to understand? I think simplify. Like, you know, basically just you only need to know usually a couple things. And sometimes here's the easy rule of thumb I do. What level is this creature? So if my party's a level 8, I kind of think to myself, okay, they're fighting a minion. The minions are going to be like level 5. Basically, most things I just say, would this creature know how to do it or would they not know how to do it? If they know how to do it, always roll an add a 5 to it. If they wouldn't know how to do it, they always just roll. And it's a flat roll. They don't add anything. And then I can just ignore most of the stat block. And then I pick out like 2 innate spell cast, like spell abilities, and then have an attack of some kind. And then they'll have an attack of some kind, but I'll just flavor it differently. One time it'll be a bite. One time it'll be a headbutt. One time they'll try to suplex some and they'll turn it into a grapple. But I just kind of like roll with it ad lib, but I just really simplify stat blocks that way. That's one way that I simplify stat blocks. Profit Roll says, probably just eliminate overlap. This is true. Whispering Wisp says, adding abilities can end up with the block large and bloated. Yes, unless you make them super, super simple. So for example, let's say that I have my orc, my orc in the forest, orc shaman, who's going to have druidic abilities. I'm going to keep it simple. It's like this is an orc. For most of the things this orc is going to roll for, I'm going to add 6. Boom. I'm not even going to look at most of the numbers. They're going to get 6 for these 3 saves. They're going to just roll flat for the others, right? And I'm going to choose like the druidic type spell casting save. So it'd be like, I'm going to say it'd be like wisdom, con, and I think I would choose actually strength. So like wisdom, con is strength, are the ones they save. So they get that 6 of those. Then it's like, what are their abilities? Pick 2 creatures from Monster Manual. That's what they turn into. Those are those abilities. We just have them there. Roar of Roar of Fear. What's the DC for it? Let's go 8 plus 6. So we're going to make it 14 because 6 is kind of what its level is. Okay, boom. We know it's a DC 14. It gets it once per combat. And then it's going to make some attacks. It's got the attacks as well as an animal form. Those are in the animal thing. And then it's just got whatever else it does. We just roll and add 6. And then for damage, roll a D8 plus strength. And so, that's my way of like really simplifying it and not bloating it. Iskandar the Great says, one of my favorite things to do is to give dragon sorcerers spell casting with the level based on the age category. It makes ancient dragons absolute forces of nature. Yes, ancient dragons should be forces of nature, I think. Ryan Williams says, yes, thank you. Oh, okay, boom. We got it right. Jonathan Haney says, Wisp, simply adding damage dice can work also. Or I'm sorry, simply adding damage dice can work also. Creatures might be diseased, have players roll con saves if they get bitten, and they'll be like, wait, why? Suddenly they have some gross disease. Yes. I one time had players go down in the sewers to fight a monster to get like they needed gold. So they took this bounty, like there's a job. The local guard had like tried to kill this monster in the sewers and they failed 2 times. So they were going to hire someone to do it. And the party signed up to do it. But when they went down there, they literally had to fight in like waist deep sludge. And everyone who got injured had to roll con saves. And basically all got infections and had to go buy like potions and get healing and stuff. It was really funny. Derek says sound has been going bad again the last few. That's so interesting. I'm gonna have to troubleshoot a little bit. Profit Roll says GM's describing gross disease monsters is cool, but always freaks me out. Yes, it is freaky, but I think that's the intended effect. It's like, oh, if you feel grossed out, this is called immersion. This is called immersion. All right. Well, everyone, hey, thank you so much for coming to Coffee Break. I think that's going to wrap it up. I'm going to finish my drink here and I'm going to cut out and go back to work. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you. I will be back at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning for Jane Philosophy Morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm going through the tools. Like I'm talking about the specifics of the tools in the player's handbook. If you are a little unsure about how to actually run tools, tool proficiencies, and crafting by the book, I'm going to clear it all up for you in tomorrow's video. So that's what we're talking about tomorrow. And I'm going to be live again tomorrow. And then we have the weekend. So we'll see 200s for you. We game this weekend. All right. I will see all of you later on the next one.